All right, I guess we're live. Okay. Welcome back to another live stream. I'm just checking my feed on the main channel and the backup channel. Welcome back. Please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing this video. If you like what you hear, please let your family and friends know that they can watch, and you can share the video and have them weigh in. We're going to be going through a few things today. Nancy Pelosi is making the news yet again because of the way she reacted when a reporter asked her about why she didn't request the National Guard on January 6th. And, we'll talk about her reaction to that question. We're also going to be talking about, we're going to be looking at the silence of the Free Palestine crowd. You know, those guys who didn't let us say anything about any other issue without them talking about the situation in Gaza? Well, it turns out that they're conspicuously quiet since the peace deal was signed. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about a few things that we need to be reminded of concerning the immigration situation. So we'll talk about immigration. We'll talk about some of the numbers that are coming out of illegal immigrants who got social security numbers and the ones that voted during the last election. Okay, we'll talk about that. And then we will be looking into the report from MSNBC. They're finally admitting, well, not in so many words, that there is a daily insurrection. They're covering the breakout of violence against federal agents trying to carry out federal law or enforce federal law. And then if we have the time, we will look at Bernie Sanders and AOC having a nice town hall at CNN, but it didn't turn out in some areas the way they wanted it to turn out. So we'll go through all those stories. Thank you for those of you who've been watching the live streams and contributing. Please don't forget that you can leave a chat. I will be responding to the chat during this stream. And if you're watching after the fact, I will be responding to your comments, when you do send in the comments. A few comments came in concerning yesterday's live stream, so I will be responding to those comments at some point during this stream. I'll be answering the questions, talking about some of the things that came up during those conversations in the chat. So the reason why we're live streaming and I'm not just recording videos and posting for your viewing pleasure is that I feel like the conversations that we have are very important. It's almost like we've lost the ability to have decent, calm conversations. So I'm trying to kind of see how I can simulate that with a live stream. So if you're watching, feel free to leave a comment in the chat so that I can see it and respond to your statements in the chat. All right. Now, the first story that we're going to be jumping into was recommended by, I forgot to also talk to you about my merch. So this is the closest I have to a 9-to-5 right now. As an immigrant, I do need documentation to work. And at the moment, I can't do any work. So I'm putting all my energy into my live stream and writing certifications. So if you feel like you want to support me, apart from liking, sharing, and subscribing, please consider buying some merch from my merch store. I have some drinkware that you might be interested in. Okay, I have the non-partisan drinkware, and I also have the Heaven's Economy drinkware. I'm a Christian. I wear it on my sleeve, and in this season of my life where I'm like, okay, I can't exactly do my regular 9-to-5s, and I have to depend on YouTube where the revenue isn't so steady. I am depending essentially on God's provision. And so while I was in prayer and meditation, this scripture came up, and I have it printed on my wall over there. So I figured, okay, maybe I should share it with some of you who might need that encouragement from scripture. So there's some great products out there with the Heaven's Economy insignia printed on it. Please consider supporting the channel that way. So let's jump into our story. Now, first off, okay, let's play this video because this is something let's just go through the sequence of videos that I have. This is a Black American lady talking about Trump and some of the things that people don't give him credit for. When you watch the mainstream media, it looks as if all the Black people hate Trump. Everybody hates Trump. Like the dogs hate Trump, the raccoons hate Trump. And when you leave those echo chambers and you really see the people who are in different parts of the country and different races talking about him and how supportive they are of his policies, it's surprising and shocking to see that happening. So let's play this and let me know what you think in the chat. Don't forget to please engage and like the video, share the video.
I swear.
Oops. Okay. What am I missing? Okay. Hope my audio is great. This is a solo operation.
I swear. The National Guard. Again. There's literally people saying in Chicago, in Memphis, which I have family in both places, I feel more safe now. My kids can go out front and play. I can walk down the street to the store and not worry about if I'm actually gonna make it home. And
all right, sorry. My AirPods are just acting up. Jeez. I hope this works.
People will still
sorry. I hope this behaves.
I'll be like, no, this is terrible. Take the National Guard out. Blah blah blah.
All right, I'm gonna start again. Sorry if I'm if I'm interrupting the flow.
The National Guard. There's literally people saying in Chicago, in Memphis, which I have family in both places, I feel more safe now. My kids can go out front and play. I can walk down the street to the store and not worry about if I'm actually gonna make it home. And people will still be like, no, this is terrible. Take the National Guard out, blah, blah, blah. And you guys are totally discounting real people's experience that live in the place.
Yep.
You guys are watching CNN. You guys are watching fake news, other biased media, and you're not listening to the people that are actually affected by it front line.
That's why they lost the elections. That's why they lost the elections. I saw the disconnect between what mainstream media was saying and what people on the streets, regular people, were saying. Now, I know that there are regular people who believe everything that mainstream media has been saying, but if you're grown up enough in your ability to think for yourself, you would see that there is a disconnect between the sentiments they share when certain things happen against Republicans and when it happens against the Democrats. When you see that disparity, it begins to let you know that they're not telling you the whole truth, and you begin to do your own research. And then you find out that they're cooking the books, they're lying, they're trying to skew voters one way, leading them away from the Republican Party. A lot of people saw that. When we go into the comments, I'm going to read one of the comments that stood out to me about how that person walked away from the Democrat Party and just registered as a Republican because of Chuck Schumer. Like, the Democrats are their own worst enemies, okay? Because of something Chuck Schumer said that I covered yesterday in yesterday's live stream, where he's encouraging people to go out and forcefully resist Trump. He said he saw that, and that was the straw that broke the camel's back, and he's now a registered Republican. The Democrats are their own worst enemies.
Wild to me. Insanely wild. I just talked to my cousin. She said, I haven't felt this safe, and I don't know at any time in my life.
Yep.
She lives in Memphis. When are we gonna wake up? It doesn't matter what the Trump administration does. You guys are always going to find some sort of fault, even if there is something good. Doesn't matter if you like Donald Trump or not. You cannot deny the facts that what he's doing in these cities, they're working.
Yep. And it shocks me that the Democrats really stood up against him enforcing the law in Washington, D.C. When they did that, I knew that, I think, I don't know why people like me say that this was a thing that finally made me believe that the Democrat Party could not be saved. And then something else happened. And then we say, and this is the other thing that made me finally believe that the Democrat Party could not be saved. There are many things that they've done, that they've embraced, that clearly makes it, the thing that shows you that they are not changing. Because I believe it's because they've locked themselves into a bind where they have to cater to the fringest of fringe ideologies and voting groups. And because these voting groups are the loudest, these guys are the loudest. They are the most unhinged voter subset. And it's either they are trying to secure these votes, or they're terrified of these voters because they've seen what these voters are capable of doing. These Democrat leaders know that these voters are violent. If you look at them the wrong way, they will attack you. These are the unhinged masses that they have attracted to themselves. Why? Because maybe they miscalculated. They thought that these guys were the useful idiots that they could manipulate with TDSBC and CNN, and they got what they wished for. But what they didn't realize was that this crowd were the ones that didn't understand how the world works, and they're the ones that would cut you if you looked at them the wrong way. So it's like, okay, we got the crazies instead of the useful idiots. These are the ones who go out there and threaten the lives of conservative journalists simply because they are there to cover the derangement that is the anti-ICE protests. We've seen the feeds, and I'm not going to play those feeds because it's risky to play those feeds. You have literal naked people walking around protesting. Like, you can't make this up. This is the Democrat crowd. And so I guess they are locked in a bind. They won't be able to get out of this. They are going to continue to go harder. The politician that can be the most revolutionary or the most violent in their rhetoric wins. And that's why Chuck Schumer is competing with AOC. AOC is really going for his job, and he doesn't want to lose that job. And so he's trying to ramp up the rhetoric. Okay, so I think we're going to see more of that.
Guys, a lot of this is just the law being carried out.
Yep.
If I go commit a crime, there's something called consequences. Even the Bible says, obey the law of the land.
Oh, don't talk about the Bible. They don't want to hear about the Bible. They don't want to hear about the Bible. They want to distance the connection between the Bible and the Constitution as much as they can. And that's why they're going hard after the elements in the Constitution that defend your God-given rights. Once you say your God-given rights, those rights are up for grabs. All right. So that's who they are. They've shown it. And I don't think they can talk their way out of anyone believing that they don't want to take away your rights.
See, but we want the narrative to fit when we want the narrative to fit. I don't know any other country you can just go into and you can just do whatever you want. Come in illegally, do this and that, and there's no repercussions. Huh. That's crazy. What a concept.
All right, so so let me know what you think of that. I just wanted to treat you with that because there's always people out there who will claim that that the black vote is all Democrat. It's not. We're beginning to see more intelligent people of color, Black people, stepping forward and speaking to the situation the way intelligent people should. I know that there's a long way to go. I'm seeing footage of people still calling for reparations, and I'm like, my goodness, you guys should simply just grow up, read a book, do something. Stop leaning into the talking points of these grifters who call themselves civil rights activists. But it's a long way out, but it's encouraging to see people like her out there speaking. I'm thrilled whenever I run into content like that, so I felt like I should share that with you. So there's crickets from the Free Palestine crowd after this peace deal. If peace in Palestine were actually the number one priority of these people who have been causing a nuisance for the last 3 years, 2 years actually, they would be celebrating in the streets right now. But it was never about peace. It was about power. It was about control. It was about being given the permission to break the law and to oppress and intimidate people who they didn't like.
Explain to me why we've seen virtue signalers talk constantly about Palestine for 2 years, but now that Trump has brokered a peace deal between Israel and Hamas in what is the biggest step towards peace in this whole conflict, they have nothing to say.
Yep.
They've been posting watermelons in their bio. They've been saying free Palestine in every comment section. They've responded about Palestine to every argument possible, even where it has no relation to the argument whatsoever.
Yeah, I've seen that happening. I mean, you're talking about something completely different and you're like, so why do you care about this situation? Don't you know that there's a genocide happening in the Middle East? It's weird. Look, some of these arguments are it's power play. Have you been in these arguments? And sadly, I don't like arguments, but you run into them occasionally. These arguments where the person is arguing and trying to get you to side with the ideologies that the leftists promote, and when you respond with facts, all right, they get upset. They literally get upset because it's not about the argument. It's not about the topics. It's not about the facts. It's about power. And once you bring the facts and they're losing the argument, they respond violently. Let me know in the chat if you've had this experience. And maybe you've been in a forum or a thread where you're having these conversations, and once you begin to bring up the facts, someone in the thread begins to respond aggressively and starts insulting you, and it doesn't appear like you guys are having the same conversation. Let me know in the chat or in the comments.
And crickets from them now that we actually have a massive step towards peace in the region. And it's because peace was never their number one priority here. If it were, they would be celebrating in the streets regardless of who brokered this peace deal.
Yep.
But because Trump brokered the peace deal, crickets. It was never about peace for these people.
Yep.
It was always about virtue signaling over their ideology, and their ideology does not allow them to give Trump an ounce of credit for anything.
That's
even
true.
if he's out here brokering peace deals between Israel and Hamas.
Look at how Barack Obama responded when the peace deal was brokered. He couldn't even give credit to Trump, couldn't even call his name, couldn't even mention his name in his comments. But what did he do? Well, he had an interview where he basically was alluding to the fact that Trump was an authoritarian. Look at Jasmine Crockett, all right? Saying that that the peace deal in the Middle East made no sense when the person who was promoting peace in other countries was exacting violence against his own people. So criminal, illegal immigrants are your people now. That's basically what the Democrat Party has become. They've become the party of criminals and undocumented immigrants. Yep, because they run interference for these people at every turn, at every opportunity. And like I said earlier, they have decided to pander to the fringest of the voting bloc. And now they're even pandering to people who are not allowed to vote. We're going to see a report about how they engineered things to allow undocumented immigrants to vote in the 2024 election. It's astounding that all of these things are happening. Now, when I read about the whole situation with all the indictments that are going on with James Comey and Letitia James, and now there's John Bolton, who is about to get a grand jury investigating his own situation. I'm not holding my breath. I've said it, and it may sound like I'm being a downer or I'm black-pilled, but when you understand the way the world works, powerful people tend to get away with things. And when I say powerful people, people who have connections within the corridors of power. And the one time that it would appear that someone who seemed powerful was being attacked by other people in government was when President Trump was being dragged through the court system. And we all saw that there was something wrong with that picture. So it's interesting to watch how they've responded to it, simply because Donald Trump was the one who brokered the deal. And I have someone in my comment section saying, well, this piece makes, it means nothing that that he brokered peace for 6 fake wars. TDS is officially a sickness. It is a sickness. It is. Like there are people who physically react when they hear Donald Trump's voice. If you're one of those people, please consider talking to someone, because it's a problem. It's a problem. And if you call yourself a Christian, there's something very wrong with that picture. Do we get upset when certain people show up on the screen? Yes, but you're supposed to deal with that. So to the point where you understand that these people have an agenda, and when you see them, they're going to push their agenda. For example, let me give you one example. John Fetterman. 2-3 years ago, I didn't like him. And when I say didn't like him, I didn't like him because of some of the things he had said, during the early Biden years. I didn't like the fact that he was sick and he still put himself on the voter rolls. That was me. I was like, let someone else run. You don't have to, run the party into the ground. And he's Democrat, and I'm busy, let someone else take the seat. But he did. He won. Of course, the media made it all about his disability, and then he won. And today I'm like, I'm glad he won. Now, there are people who don't like him, and no matter what John Fetterman does, they will not give him credit. That is a sickness. Okay? That's a sickness. And to be honest, I don't think we should go around not liking people. I don't. It's not a good thing. It's not good for your heart. It's not good for your soul. It's not. We are currently looking at the potential of the United States entering into a kind of civil war. And people are talking about it, and they're like making memes about it. But it's serious. When people can openly attack federal law enforcement, being egged on by Democrat leadership, and when those people are arrested in those blue cities, they are promptly released to go back to continue committing those crimes. All right. So don't tell me that that you're not inching towards something catastrophic when those things are happening. The United States of America is supposed to be the epitome of law and order, but we're seeing cities and states that are ripping the laws on the books to shreds simply because they want to spite Donald Trump. There's a problem with that picture. I'm sorry I went on a long rant there.
even if he's negotiating the release of the hostages that Israel has used to justify their attacks on Gaza for 2 years now.
Yeah. So that's the policy of the Free Palestine crowd. So Jennifer, one of our mods, recommended that we talk about this. Right, so there are a few posts here that I want to read out. This is a beautiful cognitive dissonance in play where Free Palestine marchers both reject the peace plan and claim that their protests have delivered it. We're dealing with unhinged people. We are. To be honest, we are. There's no way people can walk around and say this and believe it. But you know what? There are people who walk around believing this. All right. 2,200 miles away in London, hundreds of thousands took to the streets to express their anger and dismay at the terms of the peace. They don't care about the peace. They don't. They don't care that people are dying and that the dying has to stop. What do they care about? They want Israel to look bad. They want an excuse to protest. That's what they want. That's all it's about. Okay? The Trump broker deal cannot stand, they cried, because it leaves Israel intact. Do you understand where people want to destroy a whole country? Now, there's something in the Bible that just came to mind. You know, Jesus said, whoever is faithful with little. Sorry, I didn't zoom in. Whoever is faithful with little is faithful with much. And that's a very strong statement by Jesus. Jesus is telling you, the person who acts faithfully in a small thing is faithful whenever you give him a big thing. If someone acts this way concerning a small country like Israel, people say, why is America so big on Israel, a country that isn't as big as New Jersey, and so on, and they keep going and going and going. That's fine. Everyone, to each their own. However, when a group of people won't rest until that country, the size of New Jersey, is wiped off the map from the river to the sea. They've told you who they are and what they mean. Believe them. Whenever you put those same people in a country as big as the United States, they will do the same thing. They will do the same thing. There are currently conversations about banning Sharia. In one of the streams, we're going to go into that conversation to see, what we can make of it. Don't forget, you can leave a comment in the chat. All right, I'm just going over these now. Not one Free Palestine protester is celebrating this peace deal. Tells me they couldn't care less about the Palestinians. It was all just a more anti-Trump nonsense. Trump wasn't in office when they started the whole madness. So there's a bit of that. There's also the bit where these people simply wanted to use the protests to exert power. It was all about power. That was why in the colleges, you saw those protests and you saw how they were inflicting their power, their newfound power on Jewish students at those schools. They attacked anyone that didn't side with them. We all saw this go on for 2 years. So it's not about peace for them. Okay. Now for the moment we've all been waiting for. Nancy Pelosi. Look. Let's watch the outrage that she expressed when a smelly reporter dared to ask her about January 6th.
Congresswoman Pelosi, are you at all concerned that the new January 6th committee will find you liable for that day? Are you at all concerned about the new January 6th committee finding you liable for that day? Why did you refuse the National Guard on January 6th?
Shut up. I did not refuse the National Guard. The president didn't send it. Why are you coming here with Republican talking points as if you're a serious journalist?
The American people want to know. We still have questions. Thank you.
All right. So her answer to the question was, shut up. You're repeating Republican talking points. She didn't answer the question. The answer would be, I did request the National Guard, or this is why we didn't request the National Guard. Is there any reason why they just won't tell you the truth? Okay, so they can't say that because they're trying to keep their narrative intact that Donald Trump started the insurrection and he didn't make the National Guard available. All right. So here's footage that came out a few years after. I think this came out sometime in 2023 or early 24. Okay. And this is her in a vehicle driving away from the Capitol. And here's what she says.
We did not have any accountability for what was going on there, and we should have. Why weren't the National Guard there to begin with? They clearly didn't know, and I take responsibility for not having them just prepare for more.
Okay, so she says she takes responsibility for not having them prepare for more. Here's an interview from 2023. Kash Patel, who's now the FBI director, details how President Trump offered the National Guard, and he says he was in the room. Take a listen.
26. 3-year-old clip now of Kash Patel on our program telling you the truth and the true facts of January 6th. Let's go.
So can you please rewind the clock? And your time is valuable. I don't want you to have to repeat yourself, but you can please give us a play-by-play of what you offered, because you were the one who was making the offer. You know, you were the man in the room, where it happens. What did Donald Trump offer on the morning of January 6th?
Yes, I was chief of staff at the Department of Defense at the time, and he actually offered it 2 days before January 6th. We were in the Oval Office, me, SecDef, chairman, and a couple other people, and we're talking about some sensitive operations unrelated to anything here. And President Trump said, hey, look, I've seen that there's a lot of people that are going to be in and around January 6th, not just in D.C., but around the country. What are we doing to offer security? And, of course, I'm paraphrasing, and I said, sir, well, we have the National Guard. He said, okay, well, I'm authorizing up to 10 to 20,000. And the reason he did that, because he preemptively had the foresight to know, in case something happens, he doesn't want to have to be the one put in the position to say, I made a bad national security decision and didn't authorize it. The Constitution and the Supreme Court have a two-part test.
All right, so he offered the National Guard. He authorized it, okay, and he says, I authorize the National Guard. And then it was now up to them to offer the National Guard assistance to Nancy Pelosi, who was then I think she was the head of the House, or the Speaker. She was the Speaker, I think, of the House.
President has to authorize National Guard. Step one. Step two, the local governor or mayor, since it's DC in this instance, or head of law enforcement, Nancy Pelosi, has to request the National Guard after the authorization. It's posse comitatus, it's Supreme Court law, because our founding fathers don't want uniformed military personnel to occupy Washington, D.C. or anywhere else. Makes total sense. Well, after that, 2 days before January 6th, I sent my team to both Pelosi and Bowser in person. We can offer you up to 10, maybe 20,000 National Guard, but you guys know you have to tell us you want it. Mm-hmm. We can't mobilize, we can't equip, we can't man up until you sell me, go.
Yeah.
And they wrote, now the letter's out there. Mayor Bowser's letter is out there where she says, I declined.
Okay. The letter is out there, okay? She declined. The mayor of DC declined. Okay, so it's out there. Democrats and mainstream media will have you believe that President Trump did not authorize or deploy the National Guard. It is ludicrous that people still believe these lies. Recently, I had someone talking to me, And because they were trying to win an argument, they brought up January 6th. And while I kept dismantling all of their arguments, they came up with, he didn't release the National Guard. And I was like, oh my goodness. Like, the degree of ignorance that people have about this because they listen to the wrong sources is sad. Of course, I brought that up. I broke that apart, and then they got upset. All right, they got upset. They always do. All right. So we're hearing from Kash Patel. He was in the room, and this was the response coming from the mayor.
The Capitol Police timeline specifically states they went to Nancy Pelosi upon request of the Department of Defense for National Guard, and she said, nope. So that's why it didn't deploy. And I want to tell you the story about January 6th, which I really haven't told much.
Please.
The day of when the riot and everything was going on outside, of course, now Pelosi's calling us, me, SecDef, screaming, why isn't the National Guard here? And then we were like, wait a second. So are you authorizing it? Okay, authorized. Okay, where are they? As if I can just grow 10,000 Americans who are.
Which is what I did tell the person that I was discussing this matter with. I said, look, President Trump had offered the National Guard and he was turned down. When they found out that they needed the National Guard, they needed time to deploy. No, that's not true. That's not true. That they're a standing army, that they have camps. I said, look, these guys are volunteers. Some of them are regular civilians, but they signed up to serve under the National Guard. So they need to show up, get kitted out, and he wouldn't hear it. He wanted to prove to me that I was wrong. There are lots of people that are so woefully ignorant about how things work. It's sad. So I try to kind of provide the information. Like there are days where I can raise my voice and get fiery, but I like to calmly break down these things so that people can understand, because I think the political conversations of our day have become too fiery and too performative. Like you watch podcasts and YouTubers, and everyone is high octane. It's almost like they're all caffeinated to the gills. And sometimes I ask myself, maybe I'll have a larger channel if I was as caffeinated. But I honestly don't trust anyone who sounds like like they're high on something, like they're speaking too fast, and it's almost like they're people who just talk fast. It's almost like they don't think through their arguments before they say them. And I just felt, okay, I wouldn't want to listen to someone like that for too long. I want to listen to someone who's actually having a conversation with me. And this is really how I talk regularly. This is how I talk. So it's important for us to hear the facts. So let's keep going.
Teachers, doctors, cops, lawyers, parents. I have to fly them in.
No. Yeah, let's hear that again. Sorry.
Who are teachers, doctors, cops.
I want to hear this. I want to hear this part.
Who are teachers, doctors, cops, lawyers, parents. I have to fly them in, kit them up, arm them, train them, equip them, then deploy them through law enforcement, because they're an accompaniment to law enforcement. They're not a military, to august security operations.
I'm going to call the National Guard in to remove that chandelier from Kash's shot. That also should be a National Guard deployment. Enough. Those were great days. Those were exciting days. We were proud to have been on the right side of history here. Those were very scary days, to tell the truth, about January 6th.
All right. So you heard it. Nancy Pelosi was offered the National Guard. The mayor was offered the National Guard. They turned it down. The Democrat Party turned it down. And they somehow wanted to make it look like it was President Trump's fault that there was the kind of reaction on that day. All right, so I thought I had my poll up, but it's not up. So do you think, I'm going to ask this, do you think that the January 6th situation was staged? They were offered the National Guard, they turned it down. They knew that there was going to be a lot of people there protesting. And on top of that, we did start hearing that there were people planted in the crowds to kind of create chaos. So let me know in the chat and in the comment section, do you think that this was all staged? All right, let me know in the comment section. Now, we're going to be going through the comments, your comments. Yesterday, we had a live stream and we did a story about Chuck Schumer's statement about resisting Trump violently. And I'm going to go through some of your comments. All right, so we have, let me zoom in a little. Let me try and zoom in. Gosh, still not doing a great job with zooming in. Okay, there you are. All right, so we have David Petrie. He says, this time, if violence results, Schumer needs to be arrested. No games anymore. Yeah, because you have Democrats saying things that are even more violent than the things that Donald Trump said. Donald Trump said, go out, protest peacefully, okay, and orderly. And they said that that was him inciting an insurrection. How does that happen? All right. Michael Del City, I guess that's how it's pronounced, says saying that to resist Trump violently days before protests are scheduled is inciting violence. I've got my popcorn ready. Look, I don't want an incident. I know that these kinds of situations make for great content for some YouTubers. I get too emotionally connected to these things. If I see injustice, it bothers me. It bothers me to no end. I don't want there to be an incident. So yeah, I mean, break out the popcorn but the whatever comes out of that, like whenever I hear, like when the No Kings protest was coming out, I was concerned. I was concerned because these guys are desperately looking for a George Floyd moment. They want a George Floyd moment. They want a reason to set the country on fire. In fact, they want a reason to set the world on fire. They want to activate all of the left-wing fringe nut jobs to hit the streets and cause chaos. They're looking for it. You know, so I don't want them to have it. I want a quiet. Look, I'm here on YouTube. I want a quiet, peaceful life. Okay? One, two. I don't know how long I was talking before the audio went dead. Okay, this is frustrating, right? This stopped happening for a few months, and then suddenly it starts happening when I start live streaming regularly. This is upsetting. I'm so not happy with this. Anywho, let's move on. So I'm going to start from the top, if you don't mind. All right. So Mike G said, I saw that Schumer video. It was the straw that broke the camel's back. Yesterday, for the first time in my life, I registered as a Republican. The Democrats are their own worst enemies. They are their own worst enemies. They go out there, they say the stupidest things, and then they're driving more Democrats away towards the Republican Party. And of course, there's the thing with Charlie Kirk. And a lot of people, I think that was an eye-opening moment for a lot of people. They saw the response of the Democrat leadership who refused to recognize Charlie Kirk. Some of them are still saying the most egregious things against Charlie Kirk. And they won't condemn it. They're backing it up. Like I said, they're catering to the most fringe of the fringe groups out there. That's who they're catering to. So it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that that's what we're having, okay, in the Democrat Party. Well, it's good for those of us who are conservative, so that some of the policies that we want to see enforced in the United States get enforced. I did have a back and forth with Mike G. I did welcome him into the fold, and then asked him if I could share his story, and he said by all means. So, and there are lots of people who are like him, and if you know anyone who's left the Democrat Party, I mean, just tell them to come on over here and watch the video and share their story. Now, this is a whole lot. All right, Pete 870 says, I agree with you 100%. We cannot have different outcomes based on what political leaning the region has. The physical emblem of our justice system wears a blindfold and holds a scale. I was during that live stream, I was talking about Letitia James and my concerns that there was an expectation that if she was arraigned in a red city or state, that she would have the book thrown at her. And then if she was arraigned in a blue city or blue state, she would either get a slap on the wrist or she would just be, released and let go. And I said that sentiment is disturbing for me because I wouldn't want a blue state to continue to encourage crime by doing that. I also wouldn't want a red state to go all out to indict her in a rabid way simply because they're trying to get her. There has to be a fair justice system, prosecuting people based on the laws on the books. And that's my sentiment. If we are to have a fair world, that is what we need to do. If the Republicans or the conservatives begin to excessively enforce a certain law or excessively prosecute people who did something they felt was wrong, there is a huge problem with that picture. All right. And we have to call it out wherever we see it. The problem I had with the Democrat Party during the Biden years was none of them broke rank to say, this is wrong. A former president should not be prosecuted. It has never been done. They said, well, it's historic. These are the words that were used. It's historic. They felt like they were breaking new ground. Has the Trump DOJ gone after? Okay, well, yeah, they've gone after Barack Obama. They've basically started talking about the Russia collusion thing. So, yeah, they've decided to do what the Biden DOJ did to President Trump. And it's disturbing now because we're asking ourselves, Are these prosecutions or indictments politically motivated now? And it appears they are. And some of the concerns that I had with that look, Pete 870 had the same concerns. This starts by revenge against Trump for winning the 2016 election. Now, revenge for that revenge, and so on. In saying that if the motive for going after Letitia James is indeed revenge, then what they are doing is wrong. And I agree. But I honestly don't care. And I'll tell you the truth. I feel the same way. I'll just be honest. I feel the same way. I'm not going to pretend to be this moral example of people, of someone who just gets it right all the time. I suffered secondhand rage while watching what happened with President Trump. For 2-3 years, his family, they were being attacked, they were being slandered and smeared. I was suffering serious secondhand rage because I was looking at injustice being carried out. The question was, were these things actually crimes? And you could see how the laws were being tilted to go against him. New York literally had to write certain things into the books to ensure that the presidential immunity that he should have been enjoying were subverted. And they did that intentionally. They wrote it intentionally. And this was announced as early as 2020 by Letitia James on The View. It's out there. All of this is documented. They said, we want the perfect scenario that gives us the ability to go after Donald Trump and strip him of everything he has. They said it out loud. So it was wrong. So when I see what's going on, I am currently enjoying secondhand vindication. It's like, you can't do this openly and get away with it. There has to be some punishment to this crime. But I honestly don't care. Yes, that makes me a hypocrite. Yeah, maybe I am too, because I'm saying I honestly don't like the way the laws are being twisted, because I know that it doesn't stop here. It doesn't stop here. But if laws have been broken, actually broken, then yes, prosecute away. But if it's all about trying to twist a misdemeanor into a felony like they did with the Trump case in New York, that's a problem. But no Democrat spoke up. None. Or at least I didn't see any who spoke up. She played a lead role in wrongdoing herself, eagerly going after Trump from a position of influence. And even if she does not get in any trouble, I am glad to see her have to deal with this headache. I believe she is a corrupt AG and an agent of the progressive left, causing an extreme bias that is what she should be on trial for. But good luck getting a conviction on that. Let me ask you a question. Do you think that that people who work for the government are too protected? Are they too protected from being prosecuted for actions that they carried out which were not constitutional or legal? Are there laws on the books that allow for their prosecution, but they are not being carried out? Are there too many loopholes? I'm asking too many questions because I'm thinking about this situation with Letitia James. And I'm seeing too many lines radiate from this subject. And it's like, there's something going on here. And when you ask one question, 3 more pop up, So let me know what you think of this, of the comments. I did go slow, and I want to have more comments. I want to go through your comments. I would like to engage with you in the chat. If you're watching, please consider leaving a chat and engaging. on any of the stories that you've heard. All of the stories are great stories. Let me know what your thoughts are concerning my breakdown on my thoughts on Letitia James being prosecuted. We all have to deal with our own consciences, and we need to come to terms with how we feel, how we truly feel about these things, but eventually decide on the best solution. So when you ask yourself, should we go after our political enemies simply because we can? The answer should be no, because it is wrong. It's really as simple as that. But if they've committed crimes, should we turn and walk away simply because we don't want to be seen as attacking our political enemies? The answer should also be no. So let me know in the chat or in the comment section what you think. All right, let's go on to this story on immigration. I think we're going to stop at this story on immigration. All right, there's the stories we've taken so far have been very enthralling. We're going to look at this story on immigration and then the stories afterwards, the Bernie Sanders and AOC town hall. I don't want to jump into that yet, but if there's more time, then maybe we will. But let's talk about immigration. So this is a presentation by Elon. I think this was earlier in the year while they were still in the good graces of when Donald Trump and Elon were still hanging out a lot. I think that's when this was done, or maybe this was more recent, I'm not sure. And he's doing a presentation on the waste, fraud, and abuse and the immigration fraud that was being carried out by the Democrat administration. And let's hear what they had to say about it.
And then you'll notice there's a strange trend here where how many Social Security numbers were issued. Do you want to?
Yeah. So let me tell you what happened here. We started at the top of the system.
You want to talk about a lot of maybe?
We started at the top of the system, mapping the whole system of Social Security to understand where all the fraud was. And there's a lot of great people there that showed us really a lot of waste. And so that came up with a big list of stuff they're working on. You've heard some of that already. But this is what jumped out at us. When we saw these numbers, we were like, what is this? In 21, you see 270,000 people. Goes all the way to 2.1 million in 24. These are non-citizens that are getting Social Security numbers.
Yeah, this is a mind-blowing chart.
Yeah, just this literally blew us away. Like, we went there to find fraud, and we found this by accident. And this isn't political, by the way. My parents are immigrants. Yeah, this country's been great to us. My brother and sister all born in Spain. I'm pro-legal immigration. This is not political. This is not political. This is about America and the future of America. And there are a lot of good people in the system that pointed us in this direction. I want to honor them right now. That work in the government today, who took risks to show us these numbers and tell us what's going on. Yeah. So I want to stop for a minute. I want to honor those people today.
Yeah. Now there's always going to be this conversation that says, because this group is showing us this data, it is political. And I'll say, yeah, I mean, to be honest, everything we do has a high degree of politics. Everything we do. I'm not going to sit here and look, I started this channel, or at least this iteration of the channel. The channel has been around for a while. I wanted to use it, first of all, as a tutorial channel. And then I found myself doing other things with the channel. And now I do news and politics. And I found that everything we do is political. Everything we do. Even when we're looking at sports. Sports is a different kind of politics. You have a team that people like. Politics is about a following supporting you and promoting you to leadership. sports is a form of politics. I don't want to go too deep into this. Sports is a form of politics. If you have a team and the team has a large following, that large following buys tickets. Those tickets allow the owners of the team to improve the resources for training and kitting out the team and paying them better than everyone else, getting great contracts, providing them with a lot of resources and healthcare and so on. You buy merch. The funds from the merch equally supports the sports team. And eventually that support allows them to grow a team that is able to win at the championships. It's similar to politics. Politics is all about people getting together behind someone that they like and support and who stands for their values, and they will vote that person into power. In sports, the supporters vote with their money. They vote with their money. In politics, in governmental politics, they vote with votes, and in some cases with money, because the politicians need money to run ads and everything. So life is really politics. And when you understand that breakdown, you shouldn't feel guilty when you begin to have leanings, but your leanings must be fair. Because unlike sports teams cater to their audience. They win for their audience. And when they win, they and their audience enjoy it. Now, the spectacle of competing is great for everyone, but they win essentially for their audience. In general politics, the person who wins has a responsibility not just to those who put them in power, but also to those who didn't want them to be in power. And that's the way a working system should be. But we're seeing a lot of partisan reaction to these issues where somebody who is doing something for the good of everyone is being lambasted and maligned simply because this is not the guy I like. We covered earlier President Trump's peace deal not being celebrated by the Free Palestine crowd. And when you watch the reaction, it's very clear that the problem is they are so uncomfortable that it was him that brokered the peace deal. You should be asking the question, how come the people we liked didn't broker this peace deal? How come these people that we believed in didn't make this happen? But this guy that we hate so much made it happen. The answer shouldn't be, well, we hate him, therefore let's hope it doesn't work. The answer shouldn't be, because he's the one who brokered the peace deal, it's faulty, it's unfair, it's going to break apart. That should not be the case. So whenever we have these kinds of emotional roller coasters about politics, we should actually learn how to own it, but aim it towards a fair outcome for everyone. All right. He just said, these numbers are not about politics. I agree. If you have a country that runs the way they're about to reveal, you're on a fast track to destroying your country. Believe me. I don't know why Americans can't see it. Not all Americans, but some Americans can't see it. They're so hateful of President Trump that they would rather see the Middle East burn than to see him succeed at brokering a peace deal. They want to see Russia and Ukraine burn instead of seeing him succeed at making peace between Russia and Ukraine. It's wild when you look at it that way. And when you look at it that way and you say to yourself, okay, there's something wrong with this picture, then you begin to have decent conversations. Let's talk about policy, not about the personality. The party that focuses more on personality and hating people, that party is one that you should run away from. It is unhealthy, and it is setting up your country for a massive, massive disaster. We were having planes falling out, not parts of planes falling out of the sky last year. I haven't seen any of those happen this quarter at least. Last year, it was happening regularly. So something definitely changed. All right? So let me know in the chat or in the comment section if you're following this logic of mine.
People, very good people. I have been from D.C. to Social Security offices to the border to track this down, and very good people have helped us along the way. I want to thank them.
Yeah.
This number, what this is when you come in the country, if you're illegal, there's a couple ways to come in. You come in through a port of entry, and you can tell them you're afraid, and they'll give you an asylum case. You'll get an interview, then you get in. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it is to just go to the border. Literally, this happened. I talked to Border Patrol myself. Elon was there too. I went to Laredo, and I went to Bronzeville. Elon went to Eagle Pass. You walk up to a Border Patrol officer, and you tell them you want to come in. They have a couple of choices. They could charge you with a misdemeanor or a felony under 1325, or they can make it an administrative offense, like a parking ticket, basically. They were told to do that, make it an administrative offense under the last administration. And then you go walk across the border. They do what's called a release your own recognizance, and they give you an NTA, a notice to appear, which to appear to judge. The wait times on judges are like average 6 years. Look at Grok, you'll see it on immigration judges. There's only 700 of them. This is 5.5 million people. Okay? So what happens then? Once you're in the country and you got asylum through one of these pathways, and we map the whole thing out, you can apply for a work document. You file a 765, it's the work form. You get this form called the 766, that's the authorization, and then Social Security Administration automatically sends you in the mail your Social Security number. No interview, no ID.
This is worth just reiterating. It's not people sometimes think that under the Biden administration that he was simply asleep at the switch. He wasn't asleep, no. They weren't asleep at the switch. It was a massive, large-scale program to import as many illegals as possible, ultimately to change the entire voting map of the United States and disenfranchise the American people and make it a permanent, deep blue, one-party state from which there would be no escape.
So let's look at that accusation. And many people will say, well, it's a conspiracy theory, but let's look at the merits of the accusation, first of all. You had people crossing the border illegally. And instead of being sent back across the border, which was a summary deportation like they should have been doing, the Border Patrol agents were instructed to let them in and essentially give them an administrative citation or something like a parking ticket, and then give them a notice to appear before an immigration judge, leaving them with 6 years. Within that 6 years, anything could happen. Policy could change. And of course, we had Chuck Schumer saying that it was their intention to win citizenship for most of the people who came in. In fact, all of the over 10 million illegal immigrants who came into the country. It is on record. It is out there. The videos are out there. You can find them. So in 6 years, this 10 million criminal, okay, sorry, they're not all criminals, forgive me. Illegal, undocumented immigrants eventually wind up on voter rolls. And the most visible people who are saying, give them the right to vote, give them social security number, give them benefits like they're doing now. They shut down the government because they wanted these people to have certain benefits to the healthcare system and subsidies. Of course, the Democrats are saying that's not true. It's a lie. But when you have the reports from the last 4 years showing that this was happening, you can't unsee it. So these are the people who helped you, who want you to settle in the United States and it's time to vote, you know what they're going to tell you? They're going to tell you, as an immigrant who has just been given the right to vote, but you're still an illegal immigrant. But they're telling you, well, we're working on you becoming a citizen. And so you say, I want to be a citizen. In order to be a citizen, let me vote for the guys who want to make me a citizen. So you see how this works? And then they vote Democrat. The Democrats found a way to give them the ability to vote. They vote Democrats. Now, out of these people that they're talking about on the screen, how many of them voted in the 2024 presidential elections?
Look, if I hadn't seen this myself, I'm not sure I'd have believed it. I went through it myself and mapped it. And Elon is right. This is true. The defaults in the system, from Social Security to all of the benefit programs, have been set to max inclusion, max pay for these people, and minimum collection. That's what's happening. We found 1.3 million of them already on Medicaid, as an example. We've gone through on every benefit program.
So 1.3 million of these immigrants, undocumented immigrants, were already on Medicaid. Democrats like Hakeem Jeffries said, no, they're not. That's not true. All the Democrats, no, all the illegal immigrants are not on Medicaid. And what the Republicans are saying is actually a lie. I can't do it. I can't do it. All right. So Hakeem Jeffries is still screaming that it's not true that illegal immigrants are on Medicaid, but they're saying that they found those records. That's why they didn't want Doge in those records, because it opened up a whole lot. We're going to eventually go back and look at all of the things that they found, because the last 10 months of Trump's presidency feels like 3 years. It feels like 3 years. A lot has happened. And because a lot has happened, sometimes we forget more has happened in these 10 months than happened in Biden's 4 years. A lot has happened. And so we tend to forget all of these details about the list and the details and data that Doge came out with that we were getting every other day. Of course, there were reports that these were things that weren't exactly accurate. There were adjustments being made, and Elon Musk should not have released these things because they were misinformation and everything. But how much of it was true? Today, we're finding out that there was a handful of stuff that were true.
Went through, we found groups from this particular group of people, this 5.5 million people in those benefit programs. And then what was really, really disturbing us was why. We're asking ourselves why. Right. And so we actually just took a sample and looked at voter registration records. And we found people here registered to vote in this population, yes.
And who did vote.
And we found some by sampling that actually did vote. And we have referred them to prosecution at the Homeland Security Investigation Service.
Yeah, so, and they should be prosecuted because they broke the law. They broke the law coming in illegally. They broke the law of voting because they couldn't vote. I had someone come to our house when, trying to get us to vote for them. And we said, look, we're still unable to vote. And they turned around and walked away. Look, when I can eventually vote, if that person comes on the ballot, I will not vote for them. Because as far as they're concerned, the voter is just a tool. As soon as they knew, you can't vote, they just turned and walked away. We have to begin to assert our value as voters on these politicians. All right, I just want to throw that in. Here we are talking about Nancy Pelosi. We're talking about Donald Trump and the peace deal. We're talking about all of this stuff that has gone on over the last few months and that will go on. We're going to be looking at the No Kings protests. The likes of Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, Nancy Pelosi, Jasmine Crockett, AOC, and the rest of them are going to be in our faces screaming about how there's no king. Meanwhile, they treat all of us like peasants. So it's about time that the voting population got together and said, okay, it's time for us to actually exert the power we do have and vote these people out. It's really that simple. You should not be a tool in their hands. I'm glad that Mike G eventually decided that he was done with the Democrat Party, and he's taking his power and he's going to vote somewhere that where he feels like they are defending the policies that he values. And I'm not saying get angry and revolt and break things. No, it's a silent resolve to simply say, these people are not going to use me as a tool. I'm not going to be a tool of the Republican Party, a tool of the Democrat Party, a tool of MAGA, because MAGA can mean one thing today, and then in 5 years, it means something completely different when President Trump is no longer deep into politics. It can. Okay, things change. So you have to be willing to make those shifts when the time comes. Now imagine you have over half the voting population with that awareness and that power, and they cannot be manipulated by the media. That is frightening. That is frightening. It's so frightening that once somebody comes along who thinks for themselves, they immediately start slinging expletives and insults and accusations at that person so that other people don't follow their example. They need you to be hypnotized and to follow after everything they say without asking a single question. The moment you start asking why, you're a problem.
Already, that is already happening right now. Yeah. And the truly disturbing thing, though, I just want you to know this, a truly disturbing thing to me, and the darkest thing about this to me, the voter fraud is terrible, but the human tragedy this created is extraordinary, because what you don't understand, and people don't know, and Americans need to know, that's why I'm here, is that human traffickers made $13 to $15 billion off of this, okay? That's the money that's going around the world, moving people around the world to our borders because of these incentives. How does it work? What happens? Hey, if you're in Africa and you're in Central America, you got to walk up through Mexico, through Central America. Who do you pay? You pay the narcos, you pay the traffickers.
So is Bernie Sanders upset that criminals have suddenly become billionaires of human trafficking? He'll complain about Elon and everyone else that's running a legitimate business and benefiting from the sacrifices that they made. I'm not a billionaire. I'm not a millionaire. I still have a mortgage. So I don't outright own my house yet. So I'm not as rich as these people. But I feel bad when I hear the kind of narrative being pushed that these people are greedy and they need to pay their fair share. Where were you when they were sacrificing to build up the businesses that you see today? Where were you? You were nowhere. Then suddenly they succeed, and then you show up with your hands out to take what they spent years building. So it upsets me whenever I hear those stupid talking points coming from, and this is heading towards the AOC and Bernie Sanders town hall. I was hoping to avoid it, but maybe I would talk about it. So Elon and his team uncovered massive fraud, massive criminality in the voter rolls. That is what they're trying to do. And the more we look at the way they are reacting to the ICE enforcement and how they are pushing and using rhetoric like we saw from Chuck Schumer yesterday, you get to understand what they are trying to protect. The way someone reacts determines what it is they are trying to protect, the thing that is precious to them. And to the Democrats, the illegal immigrants are important to them. And why is that? It is because these are the people who will guarantee that they come back into power eventually if they can keep enough of them in the country. Conspiracy theory? No. It's no longer a conspiracy theory when you have evidence that they voted during the last election. So it's no longer a conspiracy theory.
Right? And we were told by ICE, it's between $20,000 and $500, depends where they pick you up, to walk across all those countries and get all the way up to the border. Where's that money goes? It goes to the cartels. It goes to human traffickers. Right? There are 30,000 children that have not appeared on the notice to appear already. ICE knows this. 30,000 children, 270,000 children didn't even get notices to appear. ICE told us that kids are being trafficked back and forth across the border to complete families to make this easier. This is a human tragedy. It's not just the money, it's the people and the kids. And how many of these people died on the way up here that didn't make it in? What happened to them? We created a system here that created an incentive for people to come and be taken advantage of by these traffickers. And how do you think they get paid? Well, you're in Africa, Central America, you got $20,000 or $10,000 or $5,000 to pay these traffickers? No, you don't. What happens? You come in, then you owe them the money.
Yeah.
You're an indentured servant. If you don't pay them, what happens? What do? They kill your mother, they kill your brother, they kill your family. What happens next? That's what we discovered. And I have to tell you, it's tragic to me. The tragedy, the human tragedy this created is extraordinary. That's the real problem. This is America. We don't do this here in America.
Yeah.
Now, and I want to point out that Elon Musk and the gentleman speaking are both immigrants. So this is not an issue of racist and I'm an immigrant. It's not an issue of being racist. It's really an issue of speaking the truth and calling things out. All right, so let's move on. Do we have time for the next story? Do we? All right. We're going to watch this. This is the kind of thing that I see that makes me feel I feel like people have been hypnotized by mainstream media. So listen to this lady. She's older than I am, definitely older than he is. And listen to the engagement in this video.
Trump has deported 3.1 million illegal immigrants so far. What is your response to that?
I'm speechless. I thought we were doing fine before he became president.
So actually, President Obama deported 3.1 million illegal immigrants. Trump has deported 400,000, and 1.6 million have self-deported. Are you still speechless or disturbed by Obama's?
Now, this is what happens when facts meet TDS.
I'm speechless because of the way he is doing it.
How is it different than the way Obama is doing it, in your view? Because Obama used ICE.
Same thing.
Deport people.
I'm afraid I couldn't speak on that because I don't have the information.
But in your mind, how is it different to what Obama did in any way?
She says she doesn't have the information, but he just gave her the information. Okay, so, and I don't believe that she didn't know. People feign ignorance sometimes. They feign ignorance because the argument is going against them. It's like what you see when you watch the Senate hearings and someone is being asked a question. That is a simple yes or no answer that you know that they should know. And they begin to feign ignorance. You just know that this is all a load of bull.
President Trump is very self-centered, egotistical, and seems
How is that the answer?
Rule of law.
I'm sorry, I'm just trying to understand what you're saying. You said you were speechless and it was bad that Trump deported 400,000, but
it's not the number, it's the process.
What?
How is Trump doing this?
He's using ICE.
He's rounding up people, sending them to countries
Obama did it.
Didn't come from.
The countries they came from refused to take in their own citizens. He had to start threatening them with tariffs. That's what happened. So he's not, you watch these things and then you hear Democrats saying, well, that ICE is terrorizing communities. ICE requested that the police notify them as soon as they pick up one of these undocumented immigrants who had committed a crime, so that they would come pick them up from the jail and not have to go into the general population. What did these blue cities do? They said, no, we're not cooperating, and they release a criminal back into the general population. That is how much these people are deranged. That's all I can call it. It's a derangement. And then ICE has to come in knowing that those criminal illegal immigrants are in those cities. They have to show up to hunt them down and pick them up, because the records of those people are in the system and they know their addresses. So they go to those communities to pick them up, and then the politicians get up behind the mic to say, you're terrorizing communities. You could have kept them in the jailhouse to be picked up, but no. It's all crazy to watch. And it's hard to just keep your composure when you watch TDSBC and CNN feign ignorance that these are the things that led up to this situation. They want to paint it to look like the Trump border patrol are racist and bigoted and Nazis and they are the Gestapo. I don't know about you. Is it hard for you to watch this play out and you keep your cool? Let me know in the chat.
He is sending in the National Guard. In Chicago, he says that they should be locked up because they're not protecting ICE.
What?
Yeah, militants are attacking ICE.
And then they walk away when more facts are being presented. Is it just me? To be honest, is it just me? All right. Is it just me? Now, here's another immigrant. Now, he's a citizen now. So let's hear what he has to say, because sometimes watching people who don't look like this makes it look like they're, like the people who are saying the things that they're saying are racist. And it's the ready defense or attack that people on the left have. If it's a Caucasian on the screen, they must be racist. They want everyone who doesn't look like them to leave. So let's hear what he has to say about all this.
Hi, everyone. So take a look at this clip and come right back.
You think ICE is not going to show up around voting and polling booths to chill participation? You know that. The National Guard, you know that. Everybody knows what's at stake, so we have to put a stake in the ground and do things differently.
So how do you know that I know that? This new method of asserting to the person who is listening to you what they know and do not know, I think it's a new thing. I don't remember seeing this happening. Maybe I wasn't paying attention, but I don't remember seeing this degree of gaslighting. You're literally trying to tell me what I know, and what I know is that that's not the way the law works. But he wants me to, take his word for it that that's what I know.
So think about what he said for a second. As many of you know, I was an immigrant in America for 18 years before I became a citizen. And throughout that entire 18-year period, there was never a single time that I showed up at a polling station on election day because I did not have the right to vote in America. Yep. So what is Gavin Newsom saying here? There are immigrants who are voting. Now, this is not just about immigrants, because what he is suggesting is that the presence of ICE will stop people from going to the polls. So he's not even talking about legal immigrants, because legal immigrants will have nothing to fear if ICE is around. So basically what he is saying is that illegal immigrants will be deterred from going to the polls. So are illegal immigrants making it a habit to go to the polls on election day in America? I thought Democrats said our elections are the most secure ever, and that not requiring ID was necessary because people that look like me apparently can't get IDs.
Yep.
Is this the reason why they want voter ID?
And that is some of the most racist. That statement made was one of the most racist things I had ever heard. So we don't know how, first of all, that people in black communities don't know how to use computers. Or they don't know how to find their way to the DMV to get an ID. And they say these things and get away with it because civil rights leaders go into the communities and brainwash everyone with the help, sadly, of ministers at churches. All right? I'm going to catch heat for this from the black community because I'm saying the truth. The civil rights activists who mostly go with titles like reverend and minister go into these churches, and every Sunday, the members of these churches are indoctrinated to believe a lie about the Democrat Party. And so it's mind-boggling that this has gone on for as long as it has. But it's still ongoing because it's a cycle, a vicious cycle of indoctrination. I've said it again and again. I could have been a Democrat if I grew up in the United States because my mom was really in love with the Democrat Party. She was. I have siblings who vote Democrat and they will fight for all the Democrat policies and like these are my siblings. So this is not about me judging other people because of the decisions they make. It's really about people waking up and seeing what exactly is going on and making different decisions.
If this is not a confession of how corrupt the voting system in Democrat-controlled states have become, I don't know what will convince you. Our elections must be protected from the corruption of charlatans who continue to clamor about protecting democracy, but will take every opportunity to undermine the process while pretending to be the saviors of the system. As a new American citizen who just a few years ago earned my right to vote, I believe that my vote needs to be protected from being wiped out by illegal immigrants. If this was not a plan, I am calling on ICE to actually show up at polling stations because citizens are not intimidated by seeing law enforcement. And we cannot continue to allow our election system to be abused.
Yeah. Well, that's a good one. All right. I'm going to leave the other stories till the next stream. I took too long on some of the other stories, and to be honest, I don't want to feel like I'm rushing through these stories because I have a quota to fill out, and I want to be able to just have real conversations. Like if you can see, if you can see my tab, let me hide this. If you can see my tabs, you can see that I have a bunch of other things all lined up. So I'm not going to rush. Tomorrow we'll be back. We'll cover the Bernie Sanders and Bernie Sanders and AOC town hall. Excuse me, just had to burp. All right. So we're going to again be back tomorrow. We're going to be taking some news stories tomorrow. Hopefully, we'll have more information on the protests starting this weekend. Tomorrow is Friday, which means that we are at the cusp of the protests. We will see if we will be able to cut in and live streamed some of the coverage from the protests. So let me know your thoughts on the stories that we've covered today. All of the stories have had weight. We've looked at the Free Palestine silence, and it's deafening because they were so loud for 2 years, and suddenly there's peace, and they're looking for every excuse to discount it and say that it's not a real peace. We're seeing the reactions, or let me say the updates coming from the Nancy Pelosi outburst when she was being asked about not accepting the National Guard. And of course, we did have that video, and we had the Kash Patel account of it. So let me know your thoughts on that story. The immigration coverage about what's actually going on with immigration and how the Democrat Party facilitated a porous border and has been encouraging undocumented immigrants to vote. There's so much to say. There's so much to say. When mainstream media runs cover for all of these atrocities, because these are atrocities, we should be able to call them out and not stop calling them out until it stops. It is when good people do nothing, then the world burns. It burns. It is not negotiable. All of us have to speak up. So if you want to start your own YouTube channel, reach out to me. Please reach out to me. I need to know that there are more people out there putting out content, covering their own perspective on what's going on in the United States and in the world. And we need to have more truth tellers out there. We need more truth tellers out there. All right. We will be going off the air in a couple of minutes. I have to take my daughter to an event, and I can't. I'm not a streamer. I do the live streams because I want to connect with my audience. So whenever my audience comes online, that's why I'm big on leaving a chat or leaving a comment. It's about a conversation with you. It's not about me simply putting out content. If all I wanted to do was put out content, I would simply be recording videos and posting videos. But the engagement is what matters to me. And I feel like the more we make these connections, the more we can, find out things that we don't know. Because as someone who is relatively new to all of this, I've been following the American political system for years, since I was a kid, but I still find that I'm new to it because I haven't lived in the United States all my life. I don't understand everything about the Constitution or about the way the law works in the United States. A lot of people think that they know a lot about the United States because they watch some movies or some procedural cop shows, and they think that they know everything about the legal system, but they don't. And so I try to approach this as carefully as I can. I will tell you what I think, and if I say something that I think and someone who's watching catches it and says, okay, this is not how it works, then I will learn something. If I tell you something that I have learned from my research and you didn't know that before, then you've learned something and we can have an exchange. The idea is this, or let me say the big question is this. Do you want a world for your kids that will bless them, that will give them advantages that you didn't have? I mean, real advantages, not virtue signaled advantages. Okay, not virtue signaled advantage. When I hear Democrats giving their pitch on what they want to do for the future of your kids, and their pitch is they want to give my daughter the ability to kill my grandchildren. Like what? I'm not voting for that. Oh, what if she gets raped? It is my job to make sure that never happens. Oh, but you can't control everything. Oh, watch me. And that doesn't mean I'm going to lock my daughter in a room. I'm training up a lady. I'm training up a lady. Right? When you train up ladies, they don't put themselves in a position where they get raped. Oh, now you're being, excessively facetious. No, calm down. You can't plan a society based on fringe occurrences. All right. You don't have, okay, hold on. Let me ask Grok. I'm about to make a statement, so I want to ask Grok. How many, what's the percentage of, okay, what, I need to ask the question, bro. What is the percent? I was about to make a statement of women raped compared to the population of women in the United States. So I'm going to ask a question to Grok. What's the percentage of women raped when compared to the general population of women in the United States? All right. There will be nuances. Okay. There will be nuances. All right. So annual. I need to know what's the answer, please. This is okay. So let's see. In 2023, so according Wikipedia aggregated studies, no. I need national crime, national violence. I need proper evidence. This is 1998, 2010 National Crime Victimization Survey. Reported attempted. Now they are comparing. This is crazy. Sorry. The numbers I'm seeing are weird. All right. So for a snapshot of recent incidents, about 1.2 million women aged 12 and above experience rape or sexual assault yearly. A snap for 1.2 million, or 0.8 to 1%, okay, of the female population annually. All right. So it is stating essentially 1% of the female population. 22% of that 1% are black. 20% are white. 14% are Hispanic. And then those who are multiracial, that means they are mixed, 43%. All right. Now, essentially, statements like, what if your daughter is raped? 1% of the women, of the population of women, report either getting raped or an attempt to have them raped. So 99% of the women don't get raped or don't get anyone attempting to rape them. That's the truth. When you take a 1% statistic and you try to push it on 99% of the population, that's where you get a derangement. That is a derangement. You do not make laws or policy based on fringe incidents. Whenever you have people saying, oh, what if your child gets raped? 1%. There's a 1% chance across the entire female population that they will get raped. 1%. According to this report. So, spare me the sanctimonious, you have to think about, your daughter. This policy might protect her if she gets raped. You know, she has to have rights over her body. That is nonsense. It's nonsense. Don't set your country on fire because of these fringe statistics that they try to push over on you. Katie Porter, when President Trump won the election, got on air and said sanctimoniously, oh, my daughter, you know, when I picked up my daughter from school, she was crying. And I asked her, why are you crying? My 12-year-old was crying. And she said that Trump won. I wouldn't be able to get an abortion if I get raped. Are you planning to get raped? Look, if my daughter asked me that question, my next question will be, are you planning to get raped? Because in order to, so let's look at this. All right, this is me, oh geez. This part is a hot take. We always talk about the 1% who are wealthier than everyone else. The 1% have to work extra hard. A series of very well crafted and in some cases very lucky circumstances have to come together to produce somebody who is a part of the wealthy 1%. Okay? So in order to be a part of a 1%, you have to go out of your way to put yourself in circumstances that will create the results that this 1% get. The same applies for getting raped. It does. So when you have people who walk around saying, I'm afraid I'm going to get raped, the question you should ask them is, are you planning to get raped? Because with a 1% chance of getting raped in the United States, you literally have to go out of your way to get raped. All right. If you're in college and you're in college to get a degree, you shouldn't be getting drunk at frat parties where you can get roofied and molested. You shouldn't be out after hours walking with a boy who still gets pocket money from his parents, holding hands and kissing in dark corners, putting yourself in that situation, thinking that nothing will happen. And look, sex is for procreation, essentially. For bonding and for procreation. It's not a sport. So for those who are saying, okay, what if I get pregnant when I'm doing it with my boyfriend? You have no business doing it with your boyfriend. You do it with a husband. That's the way it works. Okay? I've said my piece. All right, let the comments flow. Let the chat flow. I'll see you tomorrow when we go live again. I have been going live at 4:30 instead of 5 like I advertised because evenings like this require me to wrap up the live stream earlier because I have to take my daughter over to an event, and doing it at 5 would prevent me from doing so. So I want to thank you so much for hanging out. I'll see you tomorrow. Until then, God bless you.